Blessed love and peace in Rastafari. This is a continuation from recent articulations. The bus just drives by in the other direction, so there's anticipation of a few minutes to share this joint whilst I'm here. It's about man and woman meeting, the nature, the nurture, and the other thing that starts with the N that actually means miracle, whatever that word may be, in whatever language it may be in. All that being said, people talk about worlds colliding, tumultuousness, catastrophe. That's not the epitome. It is worlds merging, comfortably, gradually, respectfully, mutually, miraculously. That's the nature of the bond of marriage and the relationship between man and woman within marriage, bringing new life into this realm, this universe. It's akin to worlds merging and actually galaxies merging and universes merging, dimensions merging, realms merging, infinities merging into oneness, single flesh. So that's the abstraction of it. That's the actuality of it. But to provide it further tangibility, what we share is this imagery, a scenario whereby people are on a planet called Earth. And eventually looking up at the sky, like that 1980s TV sci-fi V. It's not an alien spaceship. It is an entire other planet. And we see it beforehand. Oh, we've seen it for generations. It's been on the approach for a while now. And here it is. We can actually see it with the naked eye, with the plain eye. How about that? But there it is in the sky. Looking up, there's that, look up in the sky. It's a bird, it's a plane. No, it's an actual planet. And it's getting closer and closer, and we already know, we've done the mathematics. It's merging into this planet. It's not colliding. It's not wiping out. It's merging gradually, slowly, healthfully merging. So eventually, people get excited. They see it's getting closer and closer. Oh, yo, I can see a mountain. Yo, I can see trees. Yo, I can see people. I can see beings, life on the other planet. It's so close. What's going on? Oh, it's so close. And then eventually that occasion happens. It occurs. Contact. The planets merge together. And in that contact, the first ones, there are those that are the first to jump. Now, to be honest, when we think about it, the gravitational elements, the gravitational experience adjusts, interestingly enough. We think about that joint right there. How about that? Yo, fantastic. But in that point, when the two connect, contact, some from one planet want to be the pioneering first to jump onto the other planet and experience it for themselves. There's already been a communication and connection and everything else, but now we want to see it for ourselves and experience it ourselves. So that's the first, and eventually, then from the other planet they go on to the first planet, vice versa. So it's like mutuality, and eventually, meanwhile, the planets are getting closer and closer, merging further and further together, and eventually, like the natural life. The rooted life, the trees, the seeds with the wind start to fly onto the other planet mutually, back and forth, and the life merges with each other to the point where after generations and after centuries, it's like, okay, yeah, we know this thing, and then eventually it starts looking like that financial instrument of back in the day that proclaims mastery and otherwise of the two planets merging together. That's what it looks like. That's the norm. That's the regular. And that's the bond of marriage with the man and woman. And that's the mindset, that's the preparation, that's the guidance about how to be prepared and how to prepare oneself. When a man and a woman are very different from each other, live very different lives, rituals, and everything else like that, the natures of those worlds are very different from each other, and the natures of that merging has different levels of copaceticness. So that's a matter of being mindful of that. When the worlds are very similar to each other, there's a very strong experience of congruence and like seamlessness. So again, mindfulness. There's pluses and minuses with each of those scenarios. Now, all that being said, as a man, let me tell it in terms of in that process of marriage, in addition to that experience of marriage, here's a consideration of guidance and preparation. It is to consider there's another bus in the other direction. Traffic picks up. The volume picks up. The bus itself, as well as the reverberations. So, all right, continuing on. The consideration and guidance preparation for that process of relationship and bond and marriage is this: what kind of planet are we each? Now, to avoid that collision scenario of that type of interaction, because that's what adultery is, that's what fornication is, that's what usury and objectification and game is. It's collision, because there's not the intention of new life, there's not the intention of lifelong merging and support and mutuality and comfort. Instead, it's a hit and quit of planets colliding literally and going on, and life being disrupted in that process. So the consideration to minimize that collision experience and to optimize that merging and that oneness, that comfort experience, it's a matter of discerning what type of planets are we, respectively. What type of planet am I? What type of planet is other kinfolk? And what's the levels of copaceticness on our planet to be receptive in that merging process? What are we putting out? What are we surrounding ourselves as a planet in order to have that optimal well-being as a planet? All right, peace and blessings to you. So that's part of the consideration. What are we doing? How are we living as a planet, respectively? How are each of us living as a planet, and in our surrounding atmosphere, our surrounding gravitational pull, and being receptive to merging with another planet? What are our intentions? Are we jetting around like comets and meteors, just again looking for collision, or are we steady in our path? And observing the planets around us and the alignment of the planets. Maybe it's not just a head-on collision. Maybe it's a merging of two planets just gradually side by side merging together, and additionally, there's all different types of scenarios. So it's mindfulness of how we guide ourselves. Maybe we have control over the trajectory of our respective planets. Maybe it's predestined or otherwise. Maybe it's both. It actually is both. But in the meanwhile, we have to make decisions of how we do our part of the guidance and how we do our part of the preparation, and to guide it in a way that is further mutual comfortable rather than the collision. Now, that includes like our daily interaction of the experiencing each other's forces and energy, and the natural attractions, just as bodies, as celestial bodies in this earthly realm. Earthly, celestial beings within earthly bodies in this samsara, earthly realm, and how we guide that interaction and the contact accordingly. Again, what our intentions are and how that guides our experience of contact. Now, generally speaking, the women as planets are increasingly demure, are increasingly subtle, are increasingly coy or subtle, and it's increasingly conducive towards a congenial, harmonious merging of planets. Brethren, generally speaking, tend to be further proactive and intentional and direct. Oftentimes excessive, selfish, and causing collisions, but it's a matter of a man retaining that our masculinity respectively, but at the same time being mindful and humble, modest, guarding our modesty, righteousing up our intentions to be further congenial and accommodating and providing comfort in that eventuality of merging with a woman respectively. So I'm talking around it a little bit at this point, and I'm in the midst of it at this very moment. So that's part of the actuality and the mindfulness, and the necessity of discipline accordingly, amidst all our susceptibilities. So, but that's a consideration. Looking at us respectively as planets, and considering that experience of merging man and woman as planets in that scenario, and then how we prepare ourselves, the atmosphere around ourselves, our trajectory around ourselves, to be available and accommodating in that experience of merging and oneness. And that's exactly as we're walking. When we look at women, and when we begin when we begin communication, conversation, and additionally, our intentions and our mechanics. We don't have to be the most smooth talking or whatever else. Sometimes it's better not to be the most smooth talking. It's about being honest and natural, and again, purposeful and righteous in our intentions. That's some of the ways of guiding the merging in a mutual, respectful, congenial, comfortable, healthy way, and being honest about that in a process. And it's not just a matter of doing it at the point of contact. It's doing it in our regular trot, in our regular walk, in our regular trajectory to prepare that alignment. Because it's not just a matter of saying, okay, there's a planet and she's just still, and then aiming for the connection and contact. It's a mutual connection. So that's being said, all thanks and praise to the Most High, Elohim, blessed love and peace and Rastafari. We continue.